Thank you for coming, everybody. Today I'm talking about the inequality in China. Okay, so it's a really general lecture. What does it look like? So this I'm going to do in today, this morning, and also part of this afternoon. Basically, I just present some picture to you. So understanding why it's such an important issue in China to study, to focus on inequality. And then, before moving to the data, the empirical findings, talking about way as economists, how to think about inequality, how to measure the inequality. Then, as I said, after we have the character measurement, we're talking about the data and what the people found about the Chinese inequality, and other comments from the econometric models that are used in the studies. And the last, although I will not do much inequality research myself, but I read some of them. I have some thoughts about what's still lacking in the current literature, what's the possible research topic in the future, or what's the important ones which I need to further, answer further research, so we can have a better understanding from both academic point of view, also the policy point of view of China's inequality. Everybody knows if you are Chinese or if you're reading the newspapers from China, almost every day you read some news about inequality. One of the index to people talking about is the Gini coefficiency. Okay. One important phenomenon or factor is that from the 1978, as China started its economic reform, the inequality overall in China and increasingly over time. Okay, there's certain period which has become a little bit, but the overtrend is very clear. The inequality, the income inequality in China are increasing steadily. Okay, so based on the public statistics, in the early year it is based on the revealing and the trends paper, and in the later years after 2003, actually the National Bureau of Statistics has its own Gini coefficient calculated and public. Okay. Anyway, so this two set of number actually match really good with each other. It's not surprise because the revealing and trends paper are based on the survey from the MBAs. Okay. So basically, in the sense, the two sets of the numbers are consistent. Okay. So I just said that the overall trend is very clear. From 1978 until now, the inequality is increasing, and the peak is 2008. Okay, so that's around 0.49. Okay, and after that we see a little bit of decreasing, and then last year we have about 0.47. Okay, so that's the general pictures. Okay, so everybody, when you're talking about inequality, will immediately, have this kind of picture in mind. Another important factor about China is we have a kind of rural-urban divided. Okay, so we have the institution of division between the rural people and the urban people. We have the so-called hukou system, which are legally separated population into two parts. One is the urban population, and the other is the rural population. Of course, the hukou system itself is changing. Okay, the government tries to promote a kind of unify the two population, so the two group of people can have some basic can share some basic benefits and also can enjoy the growth of Chinese economy. But until now, we still see a really significant division between the rural population and the urban population. Okay, in many dimensions. So this is just one dimension in terms of income. Okay, so if we talk the ratio of the urban to rural income, we also see the trend are also really clear. Okay, the ratio are increasing. That means the income gap between the urban and the rural people are increasing over time. And fortunately, we also see a little bit declining in the last period of the data. Okay, so that's the basic factors. So the people worry about the high inequality. The people are worried about the disparity between rural and urban. Yes.
I know this is the summer school on inequality and not the summer school on poverty, but I would be curious to know what's happening to like the 10th percentile income distribution. Is it steady? Is it going up? Is it going down?
Actually, there are two extremes. For the poverty people, the distance of poverty decreased dramatically over time. So because of the transport program, also the economic growth, so the number of the people below the poverty line decreased quite a lot. And also for the top rich people, the number also increased. Yeah.
So this is a story about the right tail.
That's right. Yeah.
In terms of poverty reduction, if you exclude China, then the poverty reduction work done by the whole world actually are not so satisfactory. So actually, China has a great contribution to the poverty reduction. That's what I heard in the National Summer School by Talk. Yeah.
Yeah, in this paper actually the document the introduction from the early beginning contribute the reduction to the growth of the economy in China. Okay, so that's the two pictures I want to present to you before formally start the lecture. Then, as I said, the income inequality is a hot topic in China, and the Gini coefficiency everybody knows, heard from the news medium or read from the papers, the research papers. Okay, then let's step back and see when we're talking about inequality, even for the economic inequality, what are we really talking about? What exactly we want to measure? Okay. Of course, the different variables we've been talking about. We've been talking about country income. That's what you read from the newspaper. That's the previous two pictures tell you. Okay, that's the country income. Or okay, we can talk about consumption. Okay, for the people who care about poverty, probably the consumption are the right variable to talk about. And then, from economic perspective, probably will also care about the life cycle earnings, life cycle income. Okay, so this, of course, there are also many other variables we can talk about. I just pick three. These three variables in terms of the time horizon. The first one is measure the short-term income, and the second term, is capture the welfare of the population. Because even if you have the shock of the country income, but you can still smooth your spending and consumption. Okay, so in some sense, the consumption have measure the longer term of the economic well-being of the household or individuals. Then we come to the life cycle inequality. Of course, it's longer. It's the longest one among all these three variables. Okay, so first thing is, of course, we know when we're talking about inequality, we need to know what we measure. We need to understanding that the time horizon are different. The very short-term measurement also have a long-term measurement. Okay, so it depends on the social mobility. I think somebody was talking about more later. if a social is highly mobile, for example, there are a lot of opportunity for the low-income people to move to high-income class, then the short-term income inequality could be different from the long-term ones. For example, if a country are totally segmented by class or by other characteristics, then even if in the short term the inequality of this society is lower, although the people cannot move from the low income level to high income level. So for the same people, they start as each class they belong to. Okay, for some society, okay, initially if we look at the common income, they have a higher income inequality, or because of the higher social mobility, then the people have a higher chance to move from the low income level to high income level. So if we look at the extent of common income or the representative income, then we can see the case that even for the two countries, depends on the social mobility. If we're looking at the common income, probably country A has a high inequality than country B. Although if country A has a high social mobility, in the long run, it's possible the case that the country A has a low income inequality. So that's why it's important. When we're talking about inequality, we not take into the comparison into considerations. Okay, so that's we're talking about which variable we're measuring. Then, in practice, how do we do the measurement? Okay. In the literature, people are talking about both criteria. That's fundamental one, and then the last one is the critical one. I will go the first, and then I will talking about the last one later. So we, for China, for example, suppose we have a census, then we have the income for everybody. We want to calculate an index to tell us how unequal the Chinese society is. Okay, so for such kind of index, in the literature, the four criteria to judge whether it's a good environment or not so good environment. One of the principle is anonymity principle. Okay, that means, okay, whether the income belongs to person A, person B doesn't matter. Okay, so the ownership of the income doesn't matter. So let's put it, we have the income for N people from Y1 to Yn. Then based on the information of the income at the individual level, we can calculate the inequality index for the society. Okay. So the first principle tells us that whether the income belongs to person 1, belongs to person 2, belongs to person 3, or we schedule the income in different ways and change the ownership of the income. That will not change the measurement of the inequality. Okay, will not change the inequality level of the society. And that's one principle. The other is called the population principles. Population principles. Okay. As before, initially we have a society with N people, we have the income for each person. Okay. Then based on that, we can calculate the index for the inequality for the society. Okay. Then if the society duplicates itself, okay, become larger, then now the size of the new society is twice as large as the first one. Although relatively speaking, the inequality level will remain the same. Okay, so that's the second principle. The population size doesn't matter. So a good environment for the inequality will not, affect by the size of the society we're talking about. That's the second principle. If anybody have any question or comments, you can ask. Okay, so that's the second principle. And the third principle is the relative income matters. It's relative income matters. Okay, so the inequality in some sense is non-income relative to the rest of people's income. Okay, so if one's society initially have this kind of income distribution, and then everybody double the income. But of course, it already comes down here. That means even if the level of the income for everybody doubled, but the relative spending of other people must remain the same. Okay, so that's the third principles. The relative income principle, which tells us that the important is the relative income, not the absolute income. The income level will not affect the index or the inequality level. The last one is the Dalton principle. Okay, so when people talking about inequalities, talking about public policies, so people also talking about government transfers. Okay, government transfers. So the principle tells us if there is a regressive transfer, that means a transfer from high-income people to low-income people, to relatively rich people to relatively poor people. Of course, intuitively you can imagine if regressive transfer happened, then after the transfer, the society should become more unequal, right? So a good index of inequality should capture this kind of transfer. If this transfer happened, then the index should tell us that the society become more unequal. Okay, that's the four principal criteria to make an equality index a good index. Any questions? Okay. Then we'll remember these four principles. We'll come back to talk about some specific measurement. One popular measurement is Lawrence K, which also closely related to the Gini coefficient. Okay. The Lawrence curve is really straightforward. We line the people from lowest to highest income. Okay. So the horizontal line will tell us the percentage of income for certain group of people. Okay. And the horizontal line will give us the percentage of the population. Okay. If 1% of the people happen to have 1% of income, and the 2% of the people happen to have a 2% of income, then we have a straight line. It also will have a diagonal lines. Okay. This line means the society is a perfect equal society because, as I said, 1% of people have 1% of income, 2% of people have 2% of income, etc. Okay. But in China, in almost every country, probably for the poor people, the 1% of poor people, they certainly have less than 1% of income. For the rich people, for the top 1% of rich people, the income level definitely more than 1%. Okay. If that case, then we have this curve. This is called the Lawrence curve. Okay. The curvature of the curve will tell us how unequal, how serves the inequality of the society. If the Lorenz curve are more toward the point C, that means the society are more unequal. Okay, so this is the Lorenz curve. Gini coefficient is closely related to the Lorenz curve. Basically, it's the area of A, that's the green area, divided by the area of A plus B. Okay, so if the Lorenz curve moves towards point C, then the area of A will become larger. So the Gini coefficient became bigger, right? So the bigger the Gini coefficient, which reflects the higher inequality of the society. If it's a perfect equal society, then this area will become zero. The Gini coefficient will also become zero, right? It's a totally unequal society, then this area will coincident with the whole triangle, okay? So then the number of Gini coefficients will be 1. So the Gini coefficient usually will, it is between 0 and 1. The higher the Gini coefficient, which means the higher unequal of the society. That's the Gini coefficient. Okay, I just said for the two countries. Okay, if one country have a Lorenz curve move towards the point C, then it's more unequal. Okay. Mathematically, the Gini coefficient is calculated based on the peer comparison. Yes.
Most of the survey are based on household survey, and the income we measure based on household level income. And when we calculate the Gini coefficients, how we using household income?
Actually, most of the income in Chinese surveys are at individual levels. Okay, the consumption are really at household levels. Okay, depends on your objective of research. For the income, you calculate at individual level, and also it's possible to calculate at the household levels. Yeah.
So if the survey only provide household level income, when we try to calculate the Gini coefficients within certain area, how we use this data?
Well, I mean, one simple way, of course, you can divide it by the number of households. Then you can get the per capita income within that household, and then you can weight it by the size of the household when you calculate it. Like, for example, if one household have the size of 5, and then for that household, of course, you get the per capita income of that household. Because it's 5 people, when you calculate, the weight will be 5, right? For another household, if you have 2 people, it's also possible to get the per capita income for that household, because only have a size of 2, then the weight will be less than the other big household.
Isn't there a whole side of this literature that worries about things like household equivalence scales, and whether you actually want to count the household of 5 as being 2.5 times as big as the household of 2 when they're sharing household level goods and blah blah blah?
Yeah, that's more on the consumption side.
Okay.
Yeah, the income is not worry about that much. Okay, you're perfectly right. When we calculate the consumption, one people probably spend a lot, or if you have another people get married, then have income skill. So the 1.5 probably now have a same living standard as instead of 2 times of the individual consumption. That's just said. So And then there are different ways to calculate the economic skill, the equivalent skill of the household, and the OECD also published the skill. It's really the simple numbers. For example, for the two households, probably they can count 27, something like that, for the 13 people, not so let's take into account of the shared common consumption, also the economic skill. Yeah.
I guess that in the previous slides you mentioned 4+1 criteria. I'm curious about what's the +1.
Oh, okay. I'll give a concept later. Okay. Yeah. We have 4 already. Any question for that 4? Okay, so if no question, we'll continue. So, this is the Gini coefficient. The Gini coefficient.
Jeffrey has some.
Oh, sorry.
One other issue that arises here is the fact that if you think about a household bargaining model, then who in the household gets the income may affect the allocation of the income within the household.
Yeah.
Right? And so equal division assumes that away.
That's right.
The policy might actually affect that. There's a paper by Shannon Sykes and Jeremy Leeds in RESTA, I think, that attempts to get at this in a developed country context, thinking about male and female partners and how they divide resources in the household as female wages rise relative to men, and how that affects individual level inequality.
Yeah, that's a valid point, especially in the Chinese context. Actually, one of the students from Maryland, he had a paper at the Journal of Human Resources talking about the household bargaining power and allocations in Chinese context. It usually finds that people along the gender lines. Perfect, right? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I also have a study undergoing, also along this line. So we just to see whether the mother has a bill will actually affect the bargaining power of the mother within the household, and has many consequences. Okay. So any other questions? Okay. So the first is the famous Gini coefficient. Everybody read from the newspaper. The calculation is based on the peer comparison. Okay. So we have n times n peers. Then we divide it. This is why we divided n by n squares. That's one thing that I want to comment. And the second thing I want to comment, this Gini coefficient has good property in the sense that it satisfies the 4 principles we mentioned. Okay. But not every inequality measurement satisfies that 4 principles. For example, the closeness ratio, that's also one popular measurement. The top 10% of population have a large share of income, and the bottom 10% of population have relatively less share of the income. So the people will say that the income from the top percent is 5 times of the income from the bottom 10%. That's closeness ratio. Okay, for that ratio, it's not really satisfy the 4 principles we're talking about. For example, it's not satisfied the delta principle. If the transfer happened in the middle, okay, not top 10, not bottom 10, then that environment may not really tell us. Even if the transfer, the society, that environment will remain the same, even the society becomes more unequal. Okay, so that's I want to make clear. Not all the environment we're talking about or read satisfy these four principles. Another important or useful measurement for the inequality is the coefficiency of valuations. Okay, so it's also a measurement. The measurement for the Gini coefficiency is based on the peer calculation. For the coefficiency of the valuation is based on the deviation from the mean, from the average income. Okay. Of course, it's weighted. This square. That means it's weighted. It's more deviate from the mean. The index gives more weight to that individuals. The coefficiency of the valuation also satisfies the four principles I just mentioned. Okay. So why do we need the two indexes for the measurement? One argument is that we mentioned if the two countries have the Lorenz curve like this, the two curves aren't close. Okay, then it's easy to judge which one has a high inequality, which one is a low inequality. Okay, this one is associated with a high inequality, and this one is associated with a low inequality. But the words are more, complicated than this simple case. Sometimes when we compare the inequality level of two countries, when we draw the Lorenz curve, it could be that the Lorenz curve is two countries close. Okay. In that sense, in that case, it's hard, or it's difficult to compare the inequality level of these two countries immediately from the Lorenz curve. Of course, based on the Lorenz curve, we can get a Gini coefficiency. Okay, we can get Gini coefficients. We can get the Gini coefficient, and also it's possible to calculate coefficiency of variations. But one caveat or drawback of the index we have here is that for the quotient case, okay, it's possible based on the Gini coefficiency, the country A has high inequality, or based on the coefficiency of the valuation, the country A has a low inequality. Okay, so even these two indexes are measurement for the inequality, or I just mentioned the conceptual underlying quite different. One is based on the peer comparison, and the other is based on the deviation from the mean. If the Lorenz curve is a simple case, there's no crossing, then these two indicators are giving us the same ranking of the inequality levels. If the Lorenz curve are crossing each other, then these two indicators maybe contradict each other. So that's one of the difficulties when the people study the inequality comparison. Okay. Then, so who is waiting for the fifth principle? Okay. So let's come to the fifth principles. I just said, okay, in China, we have the most disparity is the rural and the urban. So we have two distinct groups. Okay, when people talking about inequality in China, they're talking about inequality within urban population and inequality within rural population and the inequality between the rural and the urbans. Okay, so the fifth principle is the decomposabilities. That means when we want to study the Chinese overall inequality, ideally we also want to know how much of the inequality comes from the rural population, how much comes from the urban population, how much comes from the comparison or disparity of these two groups. with the group. So this comes from the fourth principle. It is really if an index can decompose into within inequality, between inequality, and also then this will tell us the sources of the inequality for the whole China, the whole group. This will be very useful. Okay, one of the index which has this principle is called cell index. Okay, so if I go to this index, I should mention the Gini coefficiency and the coefficiency of variation doesn't satisfy these principles. Okay, so theoretically speaking, we cannot do the composition we're talking about based on the Gini coefficiency or based on the coefficiency of the variation. Okay. So for the cell index, what we have here, as before, we have the income level and individual. That's denoted by YI. Then we have the average income, that is Y bar. Okay. So based on this information, we can calculate the cell index. Okay. So this will give us the overall measurement of the inequality of the society. Okay. Then, as I mentioned, sometimes it's used to see if the country, the society are divided into different groups, the contribution from each group and the contribution from the between group. Suppose the society are divided into Z group. In China case, think about with divided population into two groups. One is the rural population, and the other is the urban population. Okay, so based on the rural population sample, we can calculate the same cell index for the urban people, right? And also we can do the same for the rural people. That's TG tell us. Okay. Then, of course, these two populations, the population size are different, so that the weighting are by the relative population size. Also, the income level are different. So this Y bar, that's the overall average of the whole society, and the Y bar G, that means the average income of the rural population or the urban population. Okay. So then we have the first term. The first term, that's usually called the within group inequality. Okay. So the whole inequality, how much comes from the urban inequality, how much comes from the rural inequality. Okay, so this first component is called the within group inequality. Then, of course, another contribution from the Chinese overall inequality is from the disparity between the urban and the rural population. That's the second component. That's called between group contribution or between group inequality. That's in the Chinese context, that tells us how much the disparity between rural and urban population are responsible for the Chinese overall inequality. Okay, so why this is the between group inequality? Okay, if we compare this term with the definition of cell index, we can see it's really similar, right? The original cell index formula is defined at the individual level. Okay, if we define the cell index at group level, then these two are exactly the same, right? So this part is tell us the group inequality or between group inequality. Then, back to the fifth principle, the overall index of the cell index can decompose into two components. One is the group within group inequality, The other is the between group inequality. So when people do the research on China, okay, it is quite useful to want to know the 0.47 Gini coefficient, not Gini coefficient, if we calculate the cell index, what percentage from the within rural and within urban area, urban population, what percentage of the contribution are from the difference between the income level of the urban and the income level of the rural population. Okay, so that's the third index. Okay, that's called cell index. It's quite useful, and it satisfied the previous 4 criteria plus the fixed one. Any other questions? Okay. So if no other questions, I will move to the empirical part. Before I discuss the specific findings, some of them probably know the data set already, but let me briefly introduce you what is your data set in China. Okay. The first one in the context of income inequality studies. The most famous one is China Household Income Project, which now is survey is done by Beijing Normal University. It started early from 1988. Basically, it's surveyed every 7 years, something like that. The premium, currently the premium that the new survey is this year now. Okay. So this is national representative sample. It's a cooperation with the National Bureau of Statistics. It's a repeated cross-sectional survey. Okay. A lot of study on China's inequality are based on this survey. The survey, because when they do the surveys, they have a really clear objective demand. That's the main purpose of this survey is to study the income issues. Another widely used survey is China Health and Nutrition Survey, which is a panel survey. The earliest way is from 1989, and the latest way in 2012. Okay. If you are interested in other dimension of the well-being of the family or the individuals, other than income, for example, if you care about health, etc., probably this is a better choice. The third survey, this survey, the China Health and Nutrition Survey, is a joint initiative between the North Carolina University and the Chinese Preventive Research Center or something like that. Okay. The third survey is China's General Social Survey, which kind of model from the General Social Survey in US. Okay. It's hosted at Xavier University. It's also a repeated cross-sectional survey. It's designed by sociologists, so it's got a lot of information from the sociologist perspective, but it also has rich information on income, labor market information, etc. Then we will have the survey. CE talking about yesterday is the China Family Panel Study, which is modeled case ID in race. So they have 2 weeks already. It's supposed to be a panel study. This is hosted at Peking University. And the Peking University also has another important survey. It's called the Chinese Health and Retirement Longitudinal Study. So you care about the people, the retirement behavior, the age support, etc. Then probably there's a good source of the data. It's also supposed to be a panel study. The first wave is from 2011, and the second wave is the 2013. Okay, so both the Chinese field and the China social study and also the China family panel study are hosted at Peking University. Then, from the inequality perspective, another important survey is China Household Finance Survey. Compared with the China household income per year, is more information on the financial side, for example, asset, wealth, etc. Okay, so if the people care about the wealth distribution, probably that's the good source to go. This is not a panel, it's a cross-section data. So they also have 2 waves already from 2011 and 2013. So all the survey are talking about are public available. Okay, so you follow the certain procedures, you can obtain data. That's the good thing about it. Then the government also has its own survey. One is the household survey of the National Bureau of Statistics, both for the rural household and for the urban household. This kind of survey is more like CPAs. So we told the sample every 3 or 4 years. It's possible to construct short panel, and they have a detailed the expenditure, income information. Then we have the census. Okay, the first census of China is the 1953, but they lost the macro data already. They can't find it already, so we only have a tabulation now. Okay, the data at household level is beginning at the 1982. Okay, and after that we have a census of the 10 years. Of course, for the last 2 kind of data, sometimes it's difficult to get access. Okay, officially you need approval from the NDA, and it's really difficult to get approval from them. But at least for the census, I think the first 2 weeks is available at the internet somewhere. So it is possible to get them. So that's the data. Of course, there are still some small-scale surveys across all the countries, but I think the major ones we really use when we study the Chinese issues. Okay.
Just one comment. C stands for China in Charles, not Chinese, and
okay.
The second wave Charles is not available now, but it's forthcoming.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So and also the Charles they have an interesting idea now this year. Usually they do this every 2 years, but this year they have life event. Life history survey. So they asked them. So we're talking about some major phenomena in China in terms of income inequality, and we focus on the rural-urban disparities. And we know that the income is the final outcome of the economics activities, and there are many sources which contribute to income. Okay, in the literatures, besides talking about the distribution of the income, the people also talking about the functional distribution of the income. So personal income distribution, that's just talking about that's concerned with how much the people earn, and for the functional distribution of income, that's related to how the income earned by the household or by the individuals. Okay, so the final income or the final personal distribution of income can be affected by different sources. The wage, okay, for example, different people with different skill and education level can have a different wage and earnings. Okay, so that's from the labor source. Okay, so for the household who have a land or who have machinery rent out, they also collect rents. Okay, the rents also contribute to the total income. And then, if you open a business, you have a profit. Like if you invest, you also have a profit. And that's also contribute to the income. So to understand the income distribution, it's also important to understanding the distribution of the function distribution of the income. Okay. So in the following lecture, talking about one of the main sources of the income and focus on the wage and earnings inequalities. So, conceptually, understanding the value of income is important, and understanding the different resource, and statistically, wage is also important in China. Okay, I guess also in other countries as well. In the early studies we showed that in 1988, 40% of the total income is coming from the wage or the labor earnings. In 1995, around 60% of the income is from wage or earnings. And for the recent years, we have the official numbers. Okay, so the first column, that's the total income, and the second column, that's the source from the wage and the salaries. Okay, so from 2002 to 2012, roughly speaking, the wage or salary account for more than 65% of the total income. So to understanding what happened for the income inequality, it's important to step one to look one step further to see what happened to the wage and to the salaries. Okay. We have a nice study by Moon and her colleagues to depict trend of the inequality of the earnings in urban China. So now we focus on the urban China. The trend is quite similar to the income trend. Its overall is increasing dramatically, but in the later years also it's kind of flat out. That's the general picture. So this is the first graph. This for the earnings and the wage, and this second graph is the income. Both figures are from the urban China. The trend are quite similar. Okay. But understanding the wage and also the inequality of the wage, it's important to understanding the institutional change in China. Okay, basically, before 1978, China was a planning economy, so there's no labor market exists. Okay. Until the middle 1986, then the government started to reform the urban labor market. The early period from 1978, most of the reform happened in the rural area. Okay. Until 1986, the reform gradually moved into the urban sectors. The people, start to sign labor contract. Before that, there is no labor contract at all. All the people are usually employed by the factory or by the corporation. Oh, sorry. Okay, so. So before that, if a person was employed, then it's a lifetime employment. Okay. the job and also the position allocated by the government instead of allocated by the market. In the 1988, we start to see a large scale of migrants from the rural to urban area. Okay, that's the point that the society noticed the importance of the rural to urban migration. Then, in the 1995, China passed its first labor law, and also, along with this, also many reforms of the SOEs. One of the most relevant reform is the retrenchment of the SOEs. Okay, so a lot of surplus workers in the SOE is laid off. Also, a lot of small-scale SOEs are dropped or transferred into private sectors. Okay, so this one period for the 1997 until 10 years later. This is the period of what happened to the urban labor market, especially for the SOE sectors. Okay. Then to the 2008, the China passed the labor contract law. Okay. This is also important, but not in the study of this. In some sense, a lot of economists view this the passage of labor contract law make the Chinese labor market less flexible. Okay, less flexible compared with previous period. Okay, so this is the timeline of the labor market institutional change in China. So we have three key points from this change. One is in China, we used to be a planning economy. Now gradually, the labor market emerged. Okay, so from the along with time, the labor market is transforming from a market-centric economy to a market economy. Then the government allowed for the different ownership. Okay, so the people not only employed by the SOE, by the collectives, also by the private sectors. But still, even we went to the reform for many years, the labor market are still segmented. There's the three key points. All this reform, of course, have implication on the labor allocations, on the wage determination, and also have the implication on the role of the non-SOEs. So let me give you some numbers. In the 1985, okay, this in the middle of 1990s, China moved reform from rural to urban areas. And at that time, almost 100% of Chinese workers in urban areas are either employed by the SOE or by the collectives. Basically, virtually no one employed by the private sectors. So gradually, along with time, in the 2011, roughly more than half of the employment is from the other sectors other than collectives and SOE, like joint ventures, foreign investor corporations, and private sectors, etc., or stockholder companies. Okay, so
John?
Yes.
Is the government itself being counted as an SOE, or is the government just not in here?
Government not here.
Not here.
Yeah. Government not here. This is from the employment perspective. If we look into total wage bill, we have a similar trend. Okay, you see that the wage bill, of course, is the labor cost, right? To pay wage. Okay, in the early years, the wage bill from SOE account for roughly 80%, and the rest are from the collectives. Okay, but along with the change of the employment compositions, the wage bill distribution also changed. The wage bill from other sectors, other than SOE collectives, are increasing roughly a kind of half already. Okay, it's corresponding to the composition of employment of the field. Okay, then China experienced a remarkable economic growth, right? So the wage rate of different sectors also increased quite dramatically. If we're looking to the employment relations, okay, this figure will divide the labor contract, the employment relation into 5 categories. One is the open-ended contract, or some people they don't have contract, but they have a relatively stable employment relations, like a lot of professors, teachers, because they work in the university or in the schools. For the old generation, they don't have a contract with the universities, after they have a relatively stable employment protections. Okay, and then that's the first category. The second category is the people have a one labor contract. It's a fixed term, but it's relatively longer, more than 1 year, and 1 year. And then is the third category is the people who have a short-term labor contract, and the rest is no contract for self-employed people. Okay, so this is from the CHIPS data from 1988 to 2007. We see in the early period, almost everybody have, as I said, really lifetime, some kind of lifetime employment. Okay, but gradually, this part of the labor force decreased dramatically. Okay, to 2007, it's less than 40%. Okay, along with the increasing of the first category, we see a sharp increase of the people with long-term labor contract. It's a fixed-term labor contract, and we also see some increase of self-employment and the short-term contract. Okay, so in some sense, along with the reform labor market, the labor market in the urban sector become more flexible and more flexible. Okay, so we entered this at 2007. That's because the data availability, and also 2008. As just mentioned, that the government passed the labor contract law. Okay, some people will start to how this will affect the labor relation in China. Okay. Besides the labor market itself, during the past 30 years or so, China's economy also experienced kind of significant structure change. Okay, if we look into the 3 sectors, primary, secondary, and tertiary, you can see the primary sectors have decreased dramatically, and the secondary sector remains stable. We see a sharp increase of the tertiary sectors. All this change, of course, will reflect on the employment. Okay, so we also see the employment structure change in China from 1980 to 2010. Okay, so along with this change, this will reflect in the change of the wage equations. Okay, so in the wage equations, the most of the literature on China investigate different dimensions. One is like education, like experience, the productive factors, and some of them are focused on the gender or the political capital or the party membership. It's not productive factors. And also I mentioned that in some sense, China's labor market are still segmented in dimensions. For example, among the ownership along the Hukou system. Hukou system is the people who migrate in Beijing. Then they don't, enjoy the same benefit of the Beijing natives. The labor market in Beijing will respond differently to the local people and to the migrants. Even if they have same education, you can also see the return to education of people. Okay, so I just mentioned that the gentleman that although the Hukou is kind of getting less important, but we still see the increase of inequality. One contributor for that is along with time, the return to education increasing. Return to education increasing. So we have the senior high, we have the technical school, we have the college, and above. For different category of educations, okay, compared with the reference group, the rate of return to education increased dramatically. Okay, this is one of the reasons that we see for the increase of the wage inequality, and also, that's in turn will contribute to the increase of the inequality in income. Besides the return to education, the education level itself, the endowment of education also increased. We have three time period data here from 1990 to 2010. We can see, for example, the junior college and above increased quite a bit, almost 6 times compared 2010 to 1990. Okay, we also from here previous slide we know that for this part of the people, they also have a big increase of return. So both the endowment and the return to education increase, that's responsible in some degree with the increase of the wage inequality in China in the urban sectors. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, in China, because the data, I remember correctly, is from the urban household survey, and it's not easy to get the update data from the MBAs. And what do you have is what you have. It's not unskilled labor. Actually, the increase most important. I mean, the wage increasing is basically one is for the technical school, and the other is for the skilled labor, not unskilled labor. Even for the migrants, if for the people who went to the Guangdong to work in the labor market, the labor shortage is mainly for the skilled laborers, and also for that group. They experience a large increase of the wage, not unskilled labor. So that's the most important part for the past decades. That's the education, and then return to education and endowment. And in the literature, the people also look into different dimensions. One, of course, is gender. Okay, basically, the gender which gap in China of not that abuse is about 15 to 20%. Okay, that's one thing. And the other, people also looking to whether the premium associated with the party membership, okay, is inclusive. Okay, some study found that it's indeed as a premium, but the one paper using twin sample found no. Okay, so they argue that the premium associated with the party membership is because the party selected who is party member. Okay, so party member are selected, so they select better member to join the party based on observable or probably unobservable. That will explain the trading. Okay. So I mentioned there also certainly there are division among the ownership. Okay, so the ownership is probably not really consistent. In the early stage, the private sector has a low wage, and then the gap between the private sector and SOE is kind of decreased. For the foreign companies, really they earn more than SOEs, at least in 2002. If we get the new data, I think that the figure should be changed. Now the people in the SOE have a much higher salaries compared with other sectors. One thing is because a lot of small SOE are closed down. Okay, the remaining SOE are big ones or the monopolistic ones, so they have a high earnings. I will talk about that a bit later. So let's come to the SOEs. It's not exactly SOE, but when the people in China look at monopolistic companies, almost all of them are from SOEs. Like Telecom, like the oil company. So there's one paper who compared the wage differential between the monopolistic and the non-monopolistic enterprise. You see, it depends on how to measure the wage. If we measure by the monthly wage, then the monopolistic really have around 40% higher wage than other sectors. If it's hourly wage, then it's increased to 50%. Because the working hours are different also between these two kinds of companies. Okay. So how to is this differential driven by the monopolistic company has a high skill or productive worker or not? Yes.
Excuse me, I have a question. Is this analysis include the private monopolistic company or just SOE monopolistics?
In China, we don't really have a private monopolistic.
Well, I mean, for example, something like Baidu and Tencent, or
they are not monopolistic.
All right.
Okay. So they do a decomposition. They see what's the contribution from the endowment. That's roughly half, and what's contribution from the return to the endowment. That's roughly another half. Okay. So basically speaking, the message is that probably the monopolist workers have high education level, etc., but that cannot account for 100% of the wage differentials. Another 30% were from the other factors. One factor, of course, because it's a monopolist power, so associated with high profit. When the monopolist companies setting the wage, they are not really follow the market. Set up the wage higher than market level.
What's the reverse decomposition?
Okay, the reverse decomposition is that when we compare to two groups, right? And then let's get back to here the rural and the urban. Okay, we can have the urban as a base group. Okay, so we'll do this decomposition. Okay, then the contribution from different components have a number. If we change the base group, okay, then the contribution from different components can be changed, can be different. Okay, so that's usually called the index problem.
The main difference will be better hat U or better hat R for the middle of the last equation.
Yeah. This is a mistake. Just print out, and there should be R. There should be.
For the last equation, the middle term is better hat U. So the reverse will be better at R.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah. So it depends on which group you use as base. Then the distribution from different components can be different. Okay. So people sometimes do the reverse calculation to see the sensitive. There are also some people can do the kind of weighting. Okay. There are also other ways to do this. Then another dimension I want to talk about in the context of any is that in the beginning we're talking about when we're talking about inequality, we can focus on the short term, we can also focus on the long term, and this will be associated with the famous idea of reading the permanent income. Okay. There's the life cycle income, and also, another short-term one called the treasury income. Okay. There are many studies in the literatures. Okay. Hodgkin and Bobby had a same paper on US, and also there are also many other studies in other countries as well. All findings are that. The increase of the inequalities observed in the data, a significant portion of them is coming from monetary income. Okay. So in the following, we want to ask questions. Okay. How important is the permanent one and the transient one in the Chinese context? So to do that, we use the data I just mentioned from the CHMAs is the panel data. Okay. So the starting point to really look into the income, to decompose the income into different components, the permanent one and the transient one is the following model. So in the survey, we have the income, right? The individual I and count P. Okay, so look at the panel data, we can observe the same people's income in different time periods. Conceptually, we can think of the income as two components. One is the permanent one, is relatively stable, and the other is the transient one. That's what we can resolve from the shocks or from some random event. Okay. If we assume these two components, the permanent one and the transient one, are correlated, then the variance of the total income is equal to the variance of the permanent income and the variance of transient income. Okay. So we know there are many ways to measure the inequality. One measurement, of course, is the variance. Yes, the variance can also be a measurement for the inequality. So the V here will capture the inequality of the total income, and then this inequality can be decomposed into two parts. One is permanent one, and the other is the transient one, right? So if we further assume that the transitory shocks are not persistent, okay, that means if two periods are far apart enough, then the two shocks will become uncorrelated with each other. Then we have this one. If the period, if the gap in period are longer enough, then they are not correlated with each other. So that's the assumption. Then we have the panel data, right? We have panel data, we can calculate the covariance of the income of the same person across time. Okay. Then, because we assume that if the time gap between this period are large enough, the correlation or covariance are zero, then the covariance of the y by t will only depend on the permanent, right? So then the covariance will be equal to the variance of the permanent income. So from data we get this one, and that's the C. And from the data we get the V, right? So then if we let V minus C, we can get the T, which will calculate, which is the variance of the transitory component. Okay. So under this assumption, it's possible from panel data, we can calculate the three components. One is the total variance of the variance of total income, that's the V, and the other is the variance of the permanent income, that's the C, and the last component is the variance of the transitory income, that's the T. Okay, so this kind of setting up is easy to calculate, and based on multi-study, the finding from this simple calculation are consistent with the more formal model I will talk later. Okay, so let me bring this calculation in chat data. We calculate the total variance for the whole population and for the male and the female. Because the data quality of CHA is not that good, the sample size is small anyway, but the general trend is still the same. We see an increase of the inequality over time. Okay, so this study stopped at 2006. We're planning to extend to 2012. That's we have real data already, but I don't have the time to extend that now. Okay. So the important part, or the really the give us the insight, the composition part, to decompose, I just said, the inequality of the total income into the permanent income part and transitory income part. Okay. So that's what we show in this figure. So the solid line is the same as before, is the total variance over time, the total income. Okay. So this for this variance will refer to this vertical line on the right, on the left. Okay. So we want to decompose this total variance into two components to see how much percentage from the permanent income, how much percentage from transitory component. So this dash line. Okay. So the top one is the contribution from the permanent income, and the bottom line is contribution from the transitory component. So for that, we refer to the vertical axis on the right side. So this is the percentage. Basically, that tells us, okay, roughly speaking, for the total variance, the permanent one contribute around 60 to 70%, and the rest of and the remaining from, I don't know, make it one. Okay, actually, is the transitory one is account for 60 to 70%. Okay, 60 to 70%, and the permanent one only account for 20 to 30%. Okay, so that means in China context, the transitory income shock is more important in the permanent ones. I think that it's consistent with the transition period of Chinese economy. Okay, so we do the male and the female, the story similar. Okay. Of course, the simple framework I just mentioned probably is too simple. I will maybe simplify something. For example, they're going to allow the permanent income evolve with the economy. And a formal model will be one of the formal model will be the heterogeneous growth model. Okay, it's widely used in literature in this context. So again, the total income we decompose into two components. The first two terms is the permanent income, but we allow the permanent income to be changed over time. Okay, and we want to have the shock. Okay, the shock will allow the correlated across period. So in this specific model, assume is for the AR1 process. Then again, we assume the permanent part and the transitory part are uncorrelated. But for the two parts in the permanent one, we assume they to be correlated. Okay. So if we have a panel data, it's possible to estimate the data and to get the various covariance matrix. Then we can tell us the contribution from the permanent component and also the transitory component. That's the estimation we have. Okay, so for sigma mu, that's the time invariant permanent income, and the sigma gamma, that's the permanent income part which evolves with the time, and then we have the sigma epsilon that will tell us the importance of the transitory shock. It's consistent with the figure I just showed you. The transitory part is more important than the permanent part. Okay, that's one way. That's one study I do to try to look into the permanent one and the transitory one. But it's not really a finished paper yet. It's a long time ago. But anyway, I think it's important. Although I want to have more data and more rigorous study. Okay. Anyway, that's so far. I think the talk about the empirical literature related to Chinese inequality issues, and the remaining part, I just briefly discuss my taking from the literature. What I think the important topics remain under researched, and with important questions need more studies. So what do we know? We know, of course, we know the inequality in China increasing, at least until recently. We know it's high, yes. We know that the personality, the environment, like education, gender, the economic participation matters. Okay. So we also know the family background is important. We also know the institutional setting up also affect the inequality, like the school system, like the ownership, like which company an employer is in one company or not, whether and what kind of labor contract. We can actually have a paper to study the wage differential across different labor relations. Okay, it's important. Okay, anyway. We also know in China, it's a big country, so there are a lot of disparity across provinces. So the location is important. You are in Beijing, in my hometown, are quite different. Okay, so we also know the government has a lot of policies trying to reduce the inequality that have tax transfer, that have some social welfare program, which is helpful. Yes.
I don't think you said anything in all this about some of the ethnic minorities. Have people studied differences in earnings between
Yeah,
the majority against minorities.
They do have some study on this, especially at least I know one paper using the data from the Ningxia area, which is concentrated by Muslim people. So compare the Han nationality, that's the large group of people with the Muslim. But the two see the weight differential and the differentials, the income difference. But I can't remember details. I know there are some studies. Okay. But we don't know. I think it's important. So when not exactly know what happened along to the life cycles. Okay. So I just at the beginning I mentioned. Okay. Depends on the social mobility, the short-term inequality can be quite different from the long-term inequality. And from the wider perspective, probably the life cycle inequality are more important than the short-term inequality. Okay. For the data, I think that's not only for China, but also for many other countries. For the extreme rich people and for extreme poor people are not well represented in the data. So we really don't know what happened for the extreme poor people, and then we also don't know what happened to the extreme rich people. And in some sense, for the extreme poor people, of course, in China, we have a lot of the poverty reduction program to help them. But for the rich people, in China context, I think it's important to probably less studies. Okay, probably the rich people in China behave differently than rich people in the US. That will have implications. How they spend money, how they get the money. Okay, they spend it on consumption or investment or just the hard cash on an apartment. Right? You have a news in the fact two months ago, the Hainan official really corrupt. Okay, so they cannot put the bribery into the bank. So they store the cash at the apartment. That's why I want how much of them? 20,000 million US dollars, something like that. So it's a way for 4 or 5 times the cash. So we don't know.
For the extreme rich people person, when we try to measure the inequality within this certain kind of group, how we measure since it's probably that one person on very high income is kind of outlier, it will surely affect the measurement of equality, such as figures on very high income comparing with other also rich people but not so rich like that.
Well, I mean, if that just depends on what kind of universe you want talking about, right? If you want to talk about the inequality of the U.S. core society, of course you need to include Bill Gates into the measurement, right? And in China, it's not only the case, but even for the not so rich people, that are also less underrepresented in the sample. There are several reasons for that. One is, okay, for a lot of rich people, the standard survey cannot really get them. That's one thing. And the other is, even in the sample, they tend to underreport the earnings or the income. Because in China, probably the income source are not so clear-cut as in the US. We have a lot of green areas that people are less willing to tell the ratings. Okay, that's what I mean. But I think, first of all, of course, it's important to get the correct sense of the inequality. And the other is, as I said, the behavior of the rich people have an implication for the whole society. How they spend money, they do the investment, or they just do the saving, or they from the saving and the investment just put the cash at home. That's will be different stories. Okay, yeah, anyway. So we also know little about wealth inequality. There are some studies of that to deal with the inequality. We talk much about that. And another important aspect, besides the income, I think is the service inequality is under study in China. One, of course, because it's a data issue. So the healthcare, education, or the financial market service, they are quite, probably different people can have a different, can access different kind of the service. For example, education is free, right? In Beijing, we have, for example, in Beijing, if you Beijing natives, it's relatively easier for them to go to top university. Okay. But in other provinces, like the Shandong, it's probably 5 or 3 times harder for them to go to state universities. So that's one of them. That's higher education. Even for the primary and the secondary education, it's the same. Okay, so I think the service inequality kind of less studied in the literature. And then another part I think is important is the social capital. For example, the social network, especially for the disadvantaged people, like in the rural area. When the people find a job, really depends on informal channels, like friends, family members. Okay, or you can say it depends on the social capital. Okay, so how strong, how big the social capital, in some sense, will translate into the capacity of the any the job. Another aspect I think is that we live in the literature is the knowledge and the inequality. This, I think, is different education level. For example, the government has a welfare program. Some good people have the information, but some good people don't have the information. That's why they get difference. Okay, so this kind of the inequality are still less studied in the literature. In the current literatures, the people or the researchers most focused on describe what happened in China, what's the situation in China, what's the inequality looks like in China. So at the end, when the government or the society will try to reduce the inequality, they probably will adopt, implement some policies. Some policy, of course, probably the first objective is not to reduce the inequality, but it's the consequence of the inequality. One big issue we're talking about is urbanization, right? The new government really put so much emphasis on the urbanizations. The urbanization, of course, is a really complex program. The policies have different components. For example, the migration, one of them, the reform of local systems, one of them, and the reform of the older cities is one of them. Okay. So how this program or how the urbanization, different component of urbanization affect the inequality is unclear, right? It's unclear and it's not really have a good study on that. For example, for the result of urban migration, of course, in the short run, the people move to the urban land more, right? But in the long run, it's unclear what happened in the perspective of life cycle. For example, a lot of migrants they came to the city quite young, and they worked for 2 or 3 years. Because the labor protection for that group of people are quite uncommon or very limited. So a lot of them have the occupational disease, in some sense, they get ill, sick, so the physical capital, so that will jeopardize the future earning capacity. So that's one. So in the long run, it's unclear what will happen to them. And for this group of people, of course, many children, if they're married, left behind, and also they left the parents behind at the village. So some surveying to the village, just like in the East Germany, only the old generation in the left, all the young people are gone. So that's so they will have a negative or positive impact of the younger generations. Okay, so the Foucault and the race are also important, and also we can solve. So we know in the study that the program from the government transfer are helpful to reduce the inequality. Okay, in the literature, at least in the China context, we're not really talking about welfare dependence. There is a large market in US, etc. The long-term consequence of this assistance, welfare assistance to the children, to the family, this will create welfare dependence, and then have a negative consequence to the children or not. Okay, that's one thing. And then for the education, we know it's important. We know the rate of return is increased. But in some sense, I think two important dimensions we understudy. One is whether it's over-educated or not, whether the skill is matched or not. Okay. I have a study from Germany, not from China, but I think also in China it's important. It's the curriculum and really ideology-based, especially the social science. Okay. So in the German study we're doing now, we compare the people graduate before education in the West Germany, whether from social science and the natural science, what's the rate of return after the education change, etc. So it's we don't know the loss from this kind of categories. Okay. Another thing we know in the 1999 there's expansion of Chinese college education. Okay. The number of the enrollment increased more than 10 times. Okay. That's a good thing in the sense that more people, more students have a chance to go to college. But in the Chinese context, that could have a negative consequence. Okay, one thing I discussed with a colleague is that in the older days, national cohort, the college education create a gatekeeper. Okay, if we find a decent job, the government job, for example, they will require you to have a college diploma. Okay, so in that sense, even if you have a good father, but if you don't have a diploma, you cannot go to the government. But nowadays it's changed. Everybody usually have a college diploma. So the role of the gatekeeper is kind of disappeared. So whether you can find a job or not, it depends on the family background. Okay. So this will have a negative effect on the social mobility. Okay. Then, if we study the inequality, if we look at the number, for example, composition, etc., we find a lot of strange things cannot be explained. One thing I think is that a lot of the inequality in China is resulting from is rooted in the status of China's current situation. China will kind of transition from one state to another state, a lot of reforms. For example, in the early years, in 1978, we have the household this transport system in the rural area. And then we have the continent as SOE. Then in the 1990s, starting from 1998, we have the reformed housing system. Basically, the company or the working unit sell the house at a very low price for the employees. Okay, and then recently we see the housing market price increasing dramatically. So I come back 5 years ago, the price in Beijing increased 4 times. Okay, in relatively a very short period. So all this kind of change create a lot of winners and the losers, and all this kind of change actually is more important than education in China context. Okay, so the major sources of the income inequality, if we ignore one of them, we cannot really understanding what's going on in China, in terms of inequalities. So, generally speaking, I think in China with a transition economy, so that means that really we're in the state of disequilibrium, not really an equilibrium. So if we follow the equilibrium model, probably we can understanding what's going on in China. And that's also depends on the timing is important. The timing is important, I say that because, for example, for the same graduate student from Peking University, if you graduate from 2002, you are much better off than you graduate from 2005. One contribution factor is because the housing price. If from 2002, for the new grad, it's easier to buy apartment in Beijing. But after that, 2005 is impossible. And also that's also happened for the faculty members. Okay, if a new PhD from US graduated 10 years ago, it's easier for them to get a residency. Then if they come back now, it's really hard. So also this is kind of really complex. So it's not really the standard endowment, the value is kind of important, but all these things, reach others. Okay. Finally, what comments? Is that okay? We're talking about the inequality in China increasing, but some of the increase of the inequality is kind of positive force, like the increase of the education level, the increase of the rate of return to education. Right? Some of them, of course, is in some sense is bad. The inequality associated with the Hukou system, the inequality associated with the monopolistic sectors, etc. So, but in the studies, we tend to talk inequality in general and really don't distinguish what's the source of inequality. Okay. So in the literature and also in the China context, we have a long argument or long debate about the inequality, efficiency, and the inequalities in China back to the 1970s. Before that, it's quite a central planning economy, so the distribution are quite equal. But the one purpose for the study of reform is that the equal society associated with the inefficiency. Yes, so we try to introduce incentive at the household level into the companies, etc. So in the past 30 years, we really don't know how much of the efficiency gain associated with the increase of inequality. And nowadays, people getting worried about the equity, the equality quite high. Okay, but we still don't know in the past decades how much of the equity loss which associated with the equality. Okay. That's my general thinking about the inequality issue in China. The final note, okay, I guess one slide only. The final note is that all the study visually see in Chinese context there are no standard errors. Okay. But in the literatures, there are ways to calculate standard errors. If we say the inequality increase or decrease, but we don't have standard errors, it's meaningless. Okay. So I think it's important, like any other estimators, to base the standard errors. One way to do it is a jackknife way to do the standard error. Okay. So we have the data, right? Y1 to Yn, and we have the measurement for the inequality, FAT coefficiency, cell index. Okay. So what's the jackknife methodology? Then let's basically say for the sample, we drop one observation one time. Okay. So, for example, for I means we drop the observation and then calculate the same index. So we did this for every observations. If we have n observations, we do n times, right? Then we have n plus 1 index. Okay, so we use the thing we get to calculate the standard error based on the general methodology. That's the way. That's the one way to do the standard error after the inequality measurement. Okay. Okay, I think I stop here. That's my email. If you have any question, you can ask now. You can ask later.
You student first.
My first?
Yeah, student first.
I have a question about the short-term impact of the rural urban migration. You said that the inequality is probably decreased. Let us assume a simple scenario. Let's say in the rural area, they are extremely poor, low-skilled workers, and when they start moving to the city, they are probably competing with the low-skilled workers in the urban area. So in that sense, the supply will be higher for low-skilled workers. The wages will be lower, and in some degree is previously living in the urban area, the low-skilled workers, the wages lower, but the extremely poor workers living in the rural area moving to the city, they earn a higher wages. So to some degree, is the inequality could reduce, but at the same time, probably the low-skilled workers are complement to the high-skilled workers in the urban area. So there may be some possibility to help the high-skilled worker even earn a higher wages. So if you consider this scenario, it's really hard to say for sure the short-term impact will be is to reduce inequality.
Yeah, theoretically, I agree there are many scenarios which depends on whether the two types of labors are substituting each other or complementarity, etc. And so what I say here in the short term is decrease inequality. That's the empirical findings from the literatures. So what I say we don't know is no study of the long-term effect.
So you mentioned that many new universities have been started in China. But I think there's a general perception that there's some universities that are pretty good, and some universities that are less good. Has anyone attempted to study the effect of university quality on labor market outcomes in China?
They do. I think in China we have a different category of the university. The top one is Zhong Zhao, about 36%. Then we have a 211 project. This is the Zhong Zhao 985. This is the project coordinated from the government. If you belong to that group, you have a large sum of funding from the government. And the second tier is the 211 project. So it's more than 100 universities, and then the other. So there are different categories. Indeed, the students from the higher ranked university associated with the higher earnings control everything. Yeah. And now.
So it's not all family background. Some of it is, right, given that you finished a university degree, you said your argument was that because there's so many universities now, that family background in some sense has become more important in sorting university graduates among jobs.
That's also.
So university quality also matters.
That also matters. I think the two factors are very important. Yeah. I mean, not everyone probably have a family background to get you into the position you want. If you don't have that one, that's the university becomes important.
It's not necessary, but not sufficient.
And for the universities, now the new plan for the from the Ministry of Education, they want to transfer several hundred universities into the vocational education schools, the low run universities. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so if no question, we'll stop here.
Thank you.
We can